Welcome to Blogs and Articles. In this series, we look at blog posts, articles online, and news stories about love, marriage, dating, and relationships. I'll provide some coaching questions for exploration, as I would for a client who is in this situation. Then finally, I'll provide my commentary at the end of just me being myself, unfiltered and unadulterated. Hi, I'm Janelle, the relationship coach behind The Successful Invisible. I help professional Black women who are 35 plus date and partner with more self awareness and intentionality. Check out the links in the description box below to sign up for my next 5-day self awareness and dating challenge. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All right, so I came across this interesting article on Forbes, and I thought it would be perfect to post in my blogs and article series. So it says a psychologist explores the traits of a relationship overthinker. So let's jump into it. People arrive in therapy seeking answers to a relationship that has gone wrong. They say things like, "We were so good in the beginning. What did I do to cause things to change? I keep replaying our last conversation in my head. I still don't know where it came from or how to respond. I simply can't get over the thought that this whole thing was somehow my fault." Searching for answers when a relationship is on the rocks or has recently ended is a normal response. However, excessive rumination, thought spiraling, and fixation can lead to deeper psychological issues. Although we all have a natural tendency to want to understand the sequence of events that have caused the breakdown, we also owe it to ourselves to protect our mental health. This sometimes means avoiding trying to make sense of nuanced and inexplicable scenarios. It also means steering clear of self-blaming cycles. Here is one way to know if you struggle with relationship overthinking, as well as 2 strategies to turn difficult episodes into opportunities for growth. The mistake rumination scale. Psychologists have designed various instruments to assess an individual's tendency to become bogged down or stuck in destructive thought patterns, especially pertaining to one's closest relationships. One such test is the mistake rumination scale, authored by a team of researchers at the University of British Columbia and York University. To gauge your propensity for getting stuck on things that have gone wrong, read through the following 7 questions and ask yourself how often they apply to you. 1. When you make a mistake, to what extent do you tend to think, "How could I be so stupid?" 2. When you make a mistake, to what extent do you tend to think, "Why can't I stop making mistakes like this?" 3. When you make a mistake, to what extent do you tend to think about the mistake and wish it had gone better? Question 4. When you make a mistake, to what extent do you tend to think, "Why do I make mistakes that other people don't make?" 5. When you make a mistake, to what extent do you tend to think about other mistakes you have made? 6. When you make a mistake, to what extent do you tend to think, why couldn't I have seen this coming and have found some way to avoid it? And question 7. When you make a mistake, to what extent do you tend to think, "I am not going to let other people know about this"? If you find yourself resonating with the questions above, it's likely that you are especially sensitive to conflict and breakdowns in your close relationships. This is true of everyone, but you probably take it particularly hard. You may try to think your way out of relationship problems, which only adds gravity to the problem and weighs down your psyche. Fortunately, there are many ways to keep your relationship overthinking habit at bay. Here are 2 possible solutions. Solution number 1, flex your perspective-taking muscles. People who get caught up in a cycle of relationship rumination and overthinking can often benefit from a change in perspective. For instance, instead of thinking, "How did I cause this problem to happen and how can I fix it?" try flipping the script to, "What position or frame of mind was my partner in to cause them to act like this?" Taking the perspective of the other person can help you assess the situation as if you were an objective third party. Asking a friend or a therapist for their perspective on the matter can also help you see the problem from an outside lens. Remember, rumination is a self-directed journey through one's thoughts and emotions. often leading to dead ends. To break the cycle, it's important to adopt and fully commit to a new perspective. Number two, the second way you can do this is make a radical change. Sometimes it's our environment, routine, and the people we surround ourselves with that keep us fixated on an unhelpful thought. One way to break out of a destructive thought pattern is therefore to make a radical change to your lifestyle. This could mean any number of things, such as taking a break from social media, seeking out the counsel of a qualified mental health professional, committing to a new exercise routine, taking a vacation, finding a new job, moving to a new town or city. It's not guaranteed to work, but it's worth a shot. As any good therapist is quick to remind you, nothing changes if nothing changes. Conclusion. Relationship overthinking has many sources, and nobody is completely immune from it. When you find yourself caught in its web, try one, adopt different perspectives on the issue, and two, don't be afraid to make a lifestyle change. So, this is really cool for this mistake rumination scale, and I will definitely include it in the link in the description box below to the video. Moving on to some questions for reflection. These are some coaching questions that I would pose to a client in a similar situation to the article that I just read. Grab a fresh pen and notebook and answer these coaching questions truthfully and fully in order to go deeper on your own personal journey to greater self-awareness when it comes to dating and relationships. Question 1. How often does one find themselves thinking, how could I be so stupid after a relationship mistake? Question 2. How frequently are past relationship mistakes the topic of dwelling, wishing they had gone better? Question 3. When a mistake is made, how often does the thought occur, why do I make mistakes that other people don't make? Question 4. To what extent do thoughts of past mistakes in relationships occur when reflecting on a current relationship? Question 5. When mistakes are made in relationships, to what extent does this thought come up, I am not going to let other people know about this? Let's jump into one of my favorite parts of the videos for my blogs and article series, and that's where I just offer you my thoughts on the article or blog post that I just read. When I read this article, what came up for me as a person who may be a relationship overthinker is a person who may have challenges with maybe anxiety disorder. Honestly, that was the first thing that came up. And then really, digging into the mistake rumination questions and the mistake rumination scale, I get the sense that a lot of people from these researchers' perspective, and that's how they came out with this, is that a lot of people are sitting there beating themselves up, blaming themselves when relationships end. And this is something I've seen to be true with myself sometimes, as well as with the clients I work with. If something ends, even if that something wasn't good, when you truly take a step back and reflect upon it, there's this fault finding, there's this anxiety, there's this feeling of less than enough oftentimes. And having a tool such as the mistake rumination scale and the questions that start, and then you answer the questions and go into the scale is a really helpful tool to allow somebody to basically get out of their own head. I also really like the manners in which they kind of suggested shifting one's, self or sense of being. And making a radical change is probably my favorite. Making sense of like taking a break from social media, committing to a new exercise routine, taking a vacation, finding a job or moving to a new city. All of these things are huge. And I think the biggest one is taking a break from social media. We are fed this picture perfect ideal of relationships through social media, and we don't know some of these people's lives and relationships are a complete and total disaster. And before social media, I believe people could really explore what they're doing, where they're at in their relationships. It's a double-edged sword though, because I feel a lot of women especially are becoming more enlightened and educated about signs of abuse, if they're in an abusive relationship, things to be aware of, etc. So from the standpoint of educating people, I think social media can be really, really awesome because you have professionals on these platforms, like licensed professionals with PhDs and people with these, like 10 degrees. And then you also have people talking about the real world experience. So that's the positive side. The somewhat negative side is we go down the rabbit hole of things we like to see, positive examples of marriages and love, or whatever you think is the ideal in the relationship, and it can really cause a sense of anxiety within us because we feel, okay, it's us. If my relationship doesn't look just like this, there's something wrong with me. Not understanding, but not consciously processing that this is just what these people are choosing to show. And it's probably the top of the top of the top tier of what's going on in their dynamic and in their relationship. So I definitely think taking a break from social media, especially if you have fallen into this pit of being an overthinker when it comes to relationships, is very wise. Along with that, employing the services of a licensed mental health professional. I'm big on therapy. Coach cannot replace a therapist, and I say that as a coach. So I feel that taking a break from social media and pursuing someone that can help you do your internal work in a very safe environment and challenge you in an effective way, but with a lot of empathy and care, is something that I believe everyone can benefit from. Everyone is different, but it can be of benefit once you find that therapist that's a great match for you. So this article was very telling that, to me, I feel a lot of people are impacted by anxiety to some extent when it comes to thinking about relationships or the ending of a relationship. And that in order to combat that, we have to make changes within ourselves and within our lifestyles, especially our lifestyle choices about what we choose to engage in. So making the radical change for me was the route that I would probably take if I found myself in the spin of relationship overthinking. Thank you for joining me today for this episode of Blogs and Articles. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Check out the links in the description box below to sign up for my next 5-day self-awareness and dating challenge. Also, check out my podcast, The Successful Invisible, next season publishing soon on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Until next time, this is your coach, Jay Nell. Stay empowered and see you on the next article or blog post.